Packer Nation, and what feels like an eternity since the last Packers on the Rocks episode. The bye week has came and gone, and we are back for episode 9. There's a lot of things rounding into form, such as this potential Packers team this season, along with this show, as we are becoming more professional as the weeks go on with a Packers on the Rocks long tee. If you want to buy the swag, go to packersontheRocks.com and enter in the pro. I'm kidding. No, we don't have a website with a true e-commerce website with the ability to purchase some merch. Not just yet. But with that being said, let's go ahead and kick off episode 9. Dave, cheers to a win.
Hey, cheers to 12.5% making the playoffs now.
Should we go ahead and insert the Dumb and Dumber line? You're saying there's a chance, or
there you go.
That's back to back for this season.
Well, it hasn't happened often. Has it actually? Wait, yeah, it's happened. We've won back to back in the beginning of the year. Feels like a couple of years have passed since the beginning of the year. So, but hey, man, we got a win Monday night at Lambeau and feeling good about ourselves.
I like to think so. Hey, we're still alive in the playoff hunt. Shouldn't say everything is out in front of us because, and we'll talk about it here at the end of the episode, what needs to happen if we're going to play the playoff game here while still quite a few different dominoes need to fold. But with that being said, let's go ahead and hop right in. Similar to the past couple episodes, once again, I know it's for me, it feels like it's been like 2 months since the last time we played, let alone have done an episode. But just like last episode and the one before that, we'll start this Packers on the Rocks show with drinks of the game. Once again, Dave and myself have deliberately chosen 3 different cocktails, or even at this point, just alcoholic beverages, which we feel like relate to whether it's a player, a specific unit of the team, or something that's going on in the game. We are going to be choosing 3 drinks we think that fit the Packers of this particular game. So I will go ahead and start off with the very first one. And Dave, to your help on this one, the very first drink that's sliding down the bar is going to be hot buttered rum. This game, which I feel like ESPN was off in their statistics when they're saying that Rodgers is like 4-4 when the temperature dips below 20 degrees, because I was at Soldier Field when it was -15 and they didn't show that one in the pregame. But anyways, when it is below 20 degrees and you need a drink to warm you up, there's a lot of ways that you can go with it, like a spiked hot chocolate or this or that. But hot buttered rum does seem very classy, just like this show, and a drink that we will deem the worthy candidates of both Kenny Clark as well as A.J. Dillon. When it's cold out and you need to get warmed up, very similar to these 2 players where they've been I wouldn't say ice cold, but they've been less than lukewarm all season long. And then the calendar flips to December, and what do you know? Here's A.J. Dillon and his new dad energy coming alive and warming up your soul, along with Kenny Clark, where it seems like the past 3 games, he's flashed very early in like the first quarter, and then he even had a couple plays later in the game affecting like an interception for Rasul. I don't know what he's doing pitching the ball back. But anyways, that's a very long monologue to say at the very first drink we'll go to Kenny Clark and A.J. Dillon for some much needed reassurance to this team here late in the season.
Yeah, AJ is just showing that with that drink in his cup holder as he kind of is the snowplow. Hope he's all right, can bounce back for next week. I think I heard he went out with a concussion 3rd quarter or something like that. And Kenny's been playing some good ball, so kudos to him. When Kenny's on, he's a disruptor. I mean, he kind of wrecked the running game a little bit here and there, got some pressures to force the interception like you mentioned. So hopefully those guys get on track. You kind of notice the flip in the whole team. More physical on offense, more physical on defense. So more of that to come, hopefully.
Is hot buttered rum like a tone setter then, sort of drink? Those 2 you look at it, I would say A.J. Dillon, December football, he sets the tone on offense. You get under under center and not this shotgun, spread them out wide, and he sets up the play action perfectly. And then you got Kenny stuffing a couple of running backs in the backfield. Now, we know with A.J. Dillon, and Aaron Rodgers hates excuses, but sometimes they're worthy, sometimes they're not. A.J. Dillon said that for much of the season, he's been overthinking. He has been reading holes very well, and he hasn't been playing loose. And now he found out he's going to be a dad, and he's got this newfound energy to him and Quadzilla strength. What do you think it's been for Kenny Clark here? He started off the season red hot, and then after about week 4 around the Bucks game or the Pats game, he cooled off where he's basically been non-existent for weeks on end.
Kenny is kind of always been a little hot and cold when it comes to game streaks, and usually he starts out slow. Like usually Kenny takes a couple of games to get either in game shape or just find a rhythm. This year was weird because he actually started out on a blazing pace, and then he just kind of cooled off and actually just disappeared for few games there, and now he's kind of found his stretch. But I would say Kenny always turns it up around Thanksgiving time. So yeah, it's just kind of it's been a weird year for the whole team, but yeah, especially for Kenny starting out so hot and then just going from that to just couldn't find him anywhere. He was just getting washed out, and that could be Gary getting hurt. Could be just he didn't have any other guys around him to when he took on the double team or even triple teamed. There was no one else to take the pressure away from him.
Teams are finally game planning against him and noticing, hey, we got Dean Lowry. You maybe need to put a hand on him, but other than that, you put 3 offensive linemen on him. Unless you're Aaron Donald, you're not getting past that. So I have to say, you can be able to put a decent amount of success. These past 2 wins, or even how we played the past few weeks, to those 2 players right there. And so we're not droning on too much and drinking too much hot buttered rum at Christmas and getting into altercation with our in-laws and whatnot. Let's go ahead and see what the bartender has sliding down here for drink number 2, which I'll ping pong over there to your side, Dave.
I actually might have some hot buttered rum for Christmas for that Miami game, but anyway, to my drink.
Need it for a completely different reason.
You know what goes, sometimes you get to these nice cigar lounges and goes really well with like a Scotch, and that's kind of what Watson and Doubs have been. Especially they showed up a stat. They've only been on the field for 17 snaps this whole year together. So they pair nicely together. I mean, you got Doubs, the possession wide receiver that kind of can do the crosses over the middle and the out routes, and then you got Watson, where every defense is afraid of their speed. And so looking up some stats before we hopped on here, and Rodgers was 7 for 7 for 91 yards with Doubs and Watson both on the field together. So more to come. So, but yeah, I mean, when you have Watson kind of taking the top off the defense, although this game it seemed like they wanted to run him more short and intermediate routes, but definitely frees up a lot of guys underneath when he does that. So they look like they're going to be a pretty good dynamic duo here for years to come.
And people are thinking about us finishing last in the division, which it could still very well happen. But look at our wide receiver group and how bleak it's been outside of the best wide receiver in the NFL and Devontae Adams. We had Touchdown Jesus as like our number 2 or number 3 in MVS, where they're like, oh, we think Christian Watson's going to be a version of him. No, that's a piss poor comparison now to put Christian Watson up against MVS. And you're seeing it too. What was it? Cobb had a number of plays where he's wide open over the middle, and that's because the safeties have to respect Watson deep. 2 points there. And I know we discussed this here during our prep of episode 9. Normally I'm muting the TV in favor of like a radio broadcast or some self-talk that's just going on during the game. No, I'm kidding. But next gen stats, I have to give like just a tip of the cap and a cheers to them. There was like 5 stats that they threw it out there. Yeah. Where it's like you get into MLB and they throw out some like nonsensical stats, and I'm like, oh, when the weather's blowing in this direction and this happens, I'm like on this said Tuesday. But like there's two things that I gleaned from that. Number one, and you asked this halfway through the game. Do you think they had Romeo Doubs on a pitch count then tonight? Because then you're like, hey, where's he at here in the second half? We got him going on like the very first drive with 2 catches. And then it was Cobb and the running game, but he sort of went away. That's point number one. And then point number two was I saw at one point they're like, Jalen Ramsey has been shadowing Christian Watson for 10 out of 18 snaps. And that had to do something with probably him not getting really any targets until like the late third, fourth quarter.
Yeah.
That was a Pat McAfee type question there where he rattles off 4 questions into
Dobbs was most likely on a pitch count, but I think that based on where the game was in the second half, Watson and Lazard are better run blockers than Dobbs is at this stage in their careers. So maybe you just leave them out, and we wanted to run the ball more, and that's why you're kind of doing it. Because I saw Cigar out there too quite a bit in the second half, which is kind of your H-back blocking tight end. Same with Big Dog. Big Dog was out there quite a bit in the second half. So most likely pitch count or just kind of second half adjustments for once.
What? Wait, what did you say?
I said most likely pitch count or a second half adjustment for once.
I didn't. That's the first time I've heard of that.
Yeah, do those exist? And then your McAfee thing. What was this? What was the second part of that?
Oh, just that Jalen shadowed Christian Watson for a good majority of the game. Now that frees up a lot of other players, but it's like, hey, if we're focusing on the run game.
I mean, who's Jalen supposed to cover? Lazard at that point? Watson's your biggest threat on offense. So, I mean, that makes sense from their standpoint. But yeah, I mean, the only person that we really didn't see that I was kind of intrigued to see if we were going to see was Torrey.
I did see him in for 1 snap where he did a motion across in shotgun formation. I'm like, they must be giving Christian Watson a breather there. And that's it. I don't know if there's a drink that goes towards this, but you think about like what has been like our bread and butter play this year, like our cash cow has been that like shotgun formation, play action fake to the running back, and then throw a post backside, which we finally hit that later on in the game to Doubs. But that play has been money. That's the one that Christian Watson scored against the Eagle on that bomb, whatever it was, 50+ yard touchdown where he had the angle on him. But those two paired together, would you go as far as saying that solidifies your 1 and your 2? Or do you think that you still have to find, kind of like the Eagles, a 1A and a 1B, or Doubs is more of like your 3?
I think Doubs could be a legitimate 2. My problem with bringing in someone else at this point is not at this point, even next year would be you're just stunting their growth because I think their ceilings are both pretty dang high. Probably have to go out and find an actual 3 at this point, like Cobb's most likely gone, so you have to probably find a slot guy, and then you just let Watson and Doubs continue their growing pains and whatnot into next year. But because I don't see them going out of their way and bringing in like a AJ Brown, if you will, and then just bumping down Watson and Doubs to 2 and 3 because I think they really like those guys, and I don't think they want to take snaps away from them. But it makes sense if they went that route. If they want to get another veteran wide receiver and have him be the one, but I don't see them doing that.
And to think too how like recent drafts have been, which that's a whole different conversation here.
Yeah.
Probably move on to 3, but wide receivers fall off the board now left and right, where it's not likely that one's going to drop to now with us picking potentially in the teens.
Yeah. And you can argue too that that's with how they've gone, it's not really a need anymore.
When's the last time we've been able to say that?
Well, for Packers fans, it's always a need. It's been 20+ years of draft wide receiver. So I don't expect it to change.
Until we can grace the cover of Sports Illustrated once again with like 7 dynamic receivers and a quarterback, we must keep filling that shelf.
But what do you got me drinking next, bud?
All right, so the finale that we're gonna have is like the nightcap drink. Drink number 3 is going to be, and this is one that your friends like to dog you with. I don't know if I've ever like drank one myself, but if I were to, people are probably going to call you out at the bar. Your friends are going to rib you about it. They're going to call you Saw. They're going to call you a Sally. Maybe a couple other like derogatory terms in there as well. But drink number 3 is called the Seabreeze. Seabreeze is one that your friends can call you soft at. And there's also a specific unit on this Packers team that could also be called a Seabreeze and has been soft. You look no further, and I was very curious whether or not, with a bye week and self-scouting and Joe Barry having his sleepless nights and watching past game film, if he wasn't going to take another page out of Mike Pettin's book and play 15, plus yards off the ball when it's 3rd and 15, 12, 10 plus, you name it. But the Packers secondary is getting the Seabreeze drink for how soft they played. There was numerous occasions, once again, where we should be getting off the field in these 3rd and long scenarios, and you have somebody we're paying $20+ million a year towards, and we've seen when he's been a rookie and his all-pro status, his best is when he's playing up in your face, bump and run Al Harris coverage. Jair Alexander was playing 10+ yards off. And then Rasul Douglas, like on that touchdown in the 4th quarter, he was standing flat-footed in the end zone, 10 yards off, and let a tight end beat him on a post route. So, yeah, I know I'm going on, I'm venting here, as you can see with this Packers secondary, but they're worthy of about 10 Seabreezes.
Dude, Joe Barry slept like A.J. Dillon's newborn baby knowing that they're playing 20 yards off, okay? Anytime you can play with 5 safeties back there, you got to do it, man. There was one play I texted you where I think it was 3rd and 12, and everyone was back, and their slot receiver wasn't even covered, and I was like, this is an interesting defense. So, hey, man, we've been harping on it all year, man. It's not going to change.
Like what's the argument, pro? Like, you're having a healthy debate here, and like he's predicated on like not giving up the deep shots. Well, Jair,
that's the thing.
Jair will sit 10 yards off the ball and still get beat by some scrub, as he calls it. And Amos got beat too, and luckily we got a sack like the play or 2 following, but he got beat deep and he had nothing else to do but besides tackle the wide receiver for a penalty.
I mean, the thinking has to be like, I guess 1,000 paper cuts, like if you want to score that way, but we've been getting scored by 1,000 paper cuts all year long. So I don't want to say it's like because he's protecting his job, but I guess if you're looking at it, are you more likely to keep the guy that's giving up 3rd and 12 time after time after time again by playing off coverage, or are you more likely to keep the guy that's giving up like 50-yard bombs nonstop? But the thing that doesn't make sense is we paid/drafted a secondary that should be playing press man. So you're paying Jair $20 million. You brought back Rasul, and you have Stokes, the number 1 pick when he was healthy. Like, what's the point of playing the defense that you're playing?
I had one thing that I made note of. This is going back to like maybe I should actually be listening to the TV broadcast because it's helpful and I'm picking up things.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to do it my way because it's been pretty effective here, I think, the past 3
Not this year, man.
Yeah, besides this, so maybe I do need to go back. I just can't tolerate Buck and Troy Aikman. But it was at one point they went to the field sideline reporter, whatever name is. I apologize that we're forgetting you, but we do give you a shout out. It was in the 3rd quarter, and they're like, hey, one thing that Matt Lafleur said here before the game and like when we're interviewing him during the week is that he wants our defense to play more aggressive, up in your face, challenging you. The TV broadcast says that, but what we're seeing is something completely different. I know you're going to talk about miscommunication for another play later on, but like, come on, why is the TV broadcast saying let Lafleur's talking about playing up in your face, but Joe Barry is doing something completely different?
Yeah, it's been kind of disconnect for years. I mean, I think that's why he canned Pettin originally, because Pettin and him weren't playing the same style of defense. And then he brings in Joe Barry, who plays the exact same style of defense that he got rid of. So, yeah, it's just not good complementary football.
No. There's like a viral TikTok going on around now or right now about somebody playing like a mini violin and some music that goes along to it. We've been playing that violin now for many of years and harping on it. So we won't beat this dead horse all too much. Moving on to the next segment, though, the cheers and the jeers. Dave, I'll let you start it off with who your very first cheer is. I know he's becoming you say that AJ Dillon's like my boy. I think this is now your boy too.
I'm gonna get a Christmas jersey of Nixon. Like I think it's 3 games in a row. I think I've cheered him. So I mean, he had another 50+ yarder, and then he had one that was called back. I mean, Rodgers said in his presser before he hopped on, it's the first time in his career he's seen a team kick away from a Packers kick returner. So, I mean, kudos to him. Big jeer for our coaching staff for rolling out Amari Rodgers for so many weeks and having me put up with that. But I mean, kid's explosive, man. He makes one kind of cut, makes the decision, and just turns it upfield, like north and south all the way.
He still finished with what, like 100+ yards returning,
Yeah.
and that's excluding
John that's called back.
Yeah, very ticky-tack holding penalty. Yeah.
So, but for me on Christmas Day on our episode with me repping a 25 jersey.
Are you gonna be doing one of these to the Nixon on the back?
Yeah.
All right, I'm holding you to that then. I'll say the wife may get it for you. That may already be underneath.
Might be under the tree.
Yeah, it might be under the tree. He's gonna get a nice cut of that for like $12 because he sold like a total of 30 jerseys this season. Keyshawn Nixon, he's like the only Packer player who looks like he gives a damn to be out there, like he's playing for his next contract. Which it's kind of like with Rasul Douglas and Devondre Campbell last year. Let's be a bit cautious and not give him the big bag, but he's been balling out.
Yeah.
All right, my cheer is going to be, and this goes back to that. Hey, maybe every now and again I'm gonna unmute the TV because there's some good things to be said. I think it's just mostly Monday Night Football and next gen stats. But
that's your cheer.
Yeah, that's my cheer is myself. My cheer is going to be though that we snapped an 11-game streak of opening up the second half without a touchdown, and the sideline reporter had to kind of put it in Lafleur's face coming out of, you're walking out of the tunnel. It's single digits temperature, and that's going to be your very first question. Not sure if you're going to get on his good side by asking that, but hey, maybe that's the questions that he needs to get, because as you see, we snapped the streak. We responded, and that had to been like, I don't want to say 4 games in a row, but we've been deferring to the second half now for quite a few games, it feels like, of late. And going back to like the 2019 or the 2020 season, we were so good at doubling up before half, or like heading into half. We'd finish off our 2-minute drive with a touchdown, get the ball back after halftime, we score again, and then the game's out of reach. They're playing, they have to play catch up, and then go to a one-sided offense. That has not, that along with a lot of other things this year has not been the case, but hey, we finally snapped a really terrible streak of finally getting a touchdown to open up the second half. You got to be feeling pretty good about that, Dave, right?
Yeah, feeling great. I'm feeling great for Run the Table 2.0. All right, and then now to be Debbie Downers and go jeers. I'm going miscommunication. And the Rodgers throw to Lazard where he just missed him by about 10 yards. Lazard sat it down, and then the game. I mean, game was already away, but Rodgers doing the little, arm signal to Watson. Watson continuing to block up field, and Rodgers just throws it into the dirt where he should be. So still, I guess growing pains this late into the year. Just stuff that just never got cleaned up is just still kind of frustrating.
It's a microcosm for this year. What do you have to say as far as if you're gonna put some Otis on a particular player for that interception? Are you leaning more towards Lazard, or are you leaning more towards Rodgers on this one?
Oh,
Yeah, if you have to place some blame, where is it going?
I don't know, man. Rodgers has done it for a long time. If I'm blaming, let's put it this way: it's going against my stat, I'm always blaming the wide receiver. If I mean, it looked horrible though. I mean, but yeah, if it's putting an interception in the category and I'm the one holding the football, I'm kind of more thinking it's Lazard's fault because I don't know, but it's still stuff that's troublesome that it's been this late in the year and we're still not on the same page with everyone. And that's Rodgers' boy. I mean, it's not like it's Watson like sitting it down. I think you would have gotten a different reaction from Rodgers if it was Watson or Doubs than you did from Lazard.
100%. We've seen Jonesy run the wrong route or a couple of them, and Rodgers will just look the other way. Oh no, Watson gets his ass chewed when he traded stat pad at the end of the game, but Lazard gets nothing for that. And the only counter I would say to that, and this was brought up by my dad at halftime, Rodgers talks a lot about, and whether it's McAfee or in his pressers, that receivers need to adjust mid-play.
Yeah.
When they talk about ad-libbing and being able to read the secondary and what's going on. So that part right there makes me want to associate the blame towards that guy that you're wearing his dropping dimes t-shirt on.
Yeah, you dropped a dime right to the defensive back.
Probably one of the easier interceptions you'll get out of 12.
He's at 10 already, man. He's at 10. They threw up a stat most since 2010. So maybe a good omen.
I want to say what happened that year?
Yeah, right.
All right. We've been a bit long-winded here in a few segments. So I'll be quick here with my jeer. Once again, I'm going to be really paying a lot of praise to the TV broadcast. I'll say ESPN's making a comeback. They got their announcers here. They got their stats in the right line. Watch out Sunday Night Football and Chris Collinsworth and here's a guy. But my jeer is going to be to our undisciplined defense, and they had stated that we now have 6 unnecessary roughness penalties where we have Quay Walker against the Bills game. He pushed a coach on the sideline. Like, come on, man. He pushed the coach, and then you got Rudy Ford tonight pushing a defender when he's clear out of bounds. Eric Stokes against the Commanders had an unnecessary roughness penalty or some sort of unsportsmanlike conduct. Yeah. But either way, like, is it players or it's coaches? I have to think that all boils down to coaches by itself. I've never once seen any Packer team be as undisciplined as that. Dave, do we have a guest appearance by somebody here tonight? If we do, you can invite him in by all means.
My daughter just kind of barged in here. It's all good.
Bella's you're acting to give her cheer and jeer.
You're man, you watch one game with the sound on, you're acting like it's my grandparents for the first time watching colored television.
Dave, you wouldn't believe it. I saw green, I saw yellow, There's a little bit of blue and some yellow mixed in. This is groundbreaking. I don't know if you've ever experienced it before, but you actually turn the sound on. No, that has more to do with ESPN. I've never seen like Fox or CBS. Like I'll watch other NFL games, and they don't like they were on their game tonight.
Yeah, they were. I mean, I enjoy a lot of the broadcast. I mean, but I know you gotta go through your routine of the radio and all that stuff. So
yeah, very very superstitious. Which I don't know if it particularly happened because I think not like I'm gonna be losing sleep over it. I'm pretty sure the dagger call came in the third quarter with the Jonesy touchdown that Christian Watson had a big block on when we went up. What was it, 24-6? I would think they pulled out the dagger on that one.
oh yeah, but all right, man. What do we got for last call here?
All right, for last call, Dave. I think you said it there at the beginning of the show. What's our percentage now since we won this game to make the playoffs? Where are we at in the mathematical possibilities?
12.5%.
12.5.
Yeah, 12.5. I think it goes up to like 78% if we win out.
Okay. And what needs to happen? I know there's a few different paths we can take, but to put you on the spot, what needs to happen for the Packers to eke their way into the playoffs, make the most miraculous run that anybody has ever seen in all professional sports?
So we need to win out. We need Washington to lose 2 out of 3. And then we need the Seahawks to lose 1 out of 3. Or I think there's a way too the Giants just lose out as well.
And tell you what, both of those two conditions, the very first one, Washington, the Commanders, Redskins football team, whoever they're going by this year, their schedule looks like this, which it's very plausible for this to happen. They play the 49ers. I think that's a loss. They play the Browns. That's likely a win. Or Deshaun Watson, the massage therapist aficionado. Maybe he's rounding in the form too. And then they play the Cowboys. That's not a gambling person, but that's likely 2 out of 3 losses right there.
You can argue it could be 3 out of 3. Like Cleveland's not what Cleveland used to be. So
and then Seahawks, they got Chiefs, Jets, and Rams.
Okay.
Seahawks.
I mean the Jets are no longer a like rollover like automatic win anymore, especially with Mike White at quarterback. So we'll see.
And by the way, I don't know if you picked this up, but I read an article like last week or the week before that we know how close Lafleur and Robert Saleh are. They're, best man of his wedding. Supposedly, in Saleh's press conference after they beat the Packers, he's like, hey, we knew if we punched them in the mouth that they would fold. They're soft, and all we had to do was take it to them. Like, you're going to say that about your best friend, the man of your wedding? That's a whole different conversation for another time, but that probably is a good segue into what we need to do and how we can control our own destiny and what lies ahead, which I think this is going to be the toughest one of the variables to complete, which is Christmas Day. You're drinking hot buttered rum, and we're taking a trip back down for the first time since 2016 to Miami and an uncommon opponent. What are your quick thoughts about the game?
That I'm gonna be very drunk on Christmas Day.
At 11:30 a.m.
What better way to celebrate Christmas, man?
Tradition.
So Joe Barry better stay up until that game. He could go to sleep and someone else could call the plays during that day. But if we're calling, 18 yards off the line of scrimmage, which you might have to against Hill because he's just that fast, but their passing attack scares me. It's prolific. I think our defense is going to have a hard time hanging with them. So we better show up to Miami ready to put points up on the board.
Couple things with that. I have watched a few Dolphin games. I've never watched a few Dolphin games in one whole season. I mean, maybe watched like 5 in my whole entire lifetime because that's how little they are on TV. The Dolphins this year, it's a lot of shotgun. Tua drops back. He's getting rid of the ball in like 3 seconds, and they're just these. It's either a slant, it's a crosser route, or it's a post to Waddle or Tyreek. And going back to week 1, that's something that we struggled when we're playing zone, passing off your receiver from one defender to the next. So I could see that very well giving us a lot of fits, even though, which correct me if I'm wrong, when we played the Chiefs with Jay Love last year, I want to say Tyreek played in that game and he didn't do very much against us.
Yeah. The interesting part about all of this is the hardest part of us making the playoffs, surprisingly, is us beating the Dolphins and then us beating the Lions. Like, I honestly think that the Commanders probably lose 2 out of 3, and I honestly think the Seahawks probably drop 1. The hardest part of actually sneaking into the playoffs is surprisingly us actually winning football games.
Dave, what would you say if I told you that come December 19th of 2022, this is what the Packers need to do to make the playoffs, and that you feel as though the Lions are going to be our most serious threat to us getting in?
Wouldn't that be something? The Lions beat the Packers to make the playoffs? Because the Lions legit have a shot to make the playoffs, but
that could be quite the script, and we have less than a minute left, so that's probably a good way to seal
yeah.
it.
All right, man. Well, you take care. This will be kind of an interesting road ahead, but we got the win under our belt today, so we'll enjoy this week going into Christmas.
Heck yeah. Happy holidays, everybody, right?
Yeah, man. All right, bud. Till next week.